Today's video is featuring a 1968 custom Cougar, of course a Hot Wheels Redline. Got it from eBay. Now I started this project 2 weeks ago, but I got this car Friday. So keep that in mind. I started it 2 weeks ago, but this came Friday. This is Sunday, so 2 days ago. And here it is. It's actually in pretty rough shape. The paint you can see is chipped, but that's the actual finish of the metal. It's not necessarily the paint being chipped. Underneath of it is really, really bad, and it's lopsided. The wheels are horrible. Here we're taking our center punch, and we're going to kind of start our holes. The next video I may try a different method than what I'm using here, what I've done in all of them. But for now, I'm sticking with this. We're taking our small bit, and we're going to drill out the center a little bit, and a little bit more. And next we'll take our larger bit, just a moment here, so we can get the total rivet off. Comes off pretty easy in the front, the back. And you can see it just pops right off. Didn't have to pry it out or anything like that. There's the interior, all good. Now we're going to continue to drill out a little bit deeper. Now notice my hand placement. I realize I'm behind it, so I move my fingers out of the way. Again, we're getting to the 2-week thing here real soon. Now we're tapping it out. In just a moment here, we'll fit our screws in there. And there we go. Now remember, I did start this 2 weeks ago. In a moment here, you're going to see a small hole in the original car. There it is. Look at that hole very closely. Following this clip, you're going to see where I actually drill right to the bone on my index finger. I had the GoPro on, but notice I drill in. I have to reverse it to drill it out. So kids, if you're doing this, don't put your finger behind the car. I've done it several times. I try to be conscientious of it, but it didn't happen. Now we're taking the hood out of the original car. There it is. I just used a screwdriver, a flathead, and kind of just pried it out. Now I attempt to pry it back in here, but it doesn't work, so I kind of just tap it in place. And also one of the pillars on this new car was a little damaged, so I'm just going to flatten that out as well. Get it all nice and straight. Now that I watched that video of me drilling my finger, it was kind of funny, but it didn't feel too good. There you go. Just kind of show you it all fits together here. The car wants to get away from me. Now I'm just using the wire brush like I always do to get off a lot of that rough stuff. So you can see it does a pretty good job. It scuffs it up pretty good. And then the back on the actual trunk area, it was really bad as well. But the roof and the trunk area were the worst. The sides had a lot of it. You can kind of see in this shot. But it was all pretty far gone. Now we're going to use some 220 grit sandpaper. This is pretty rough, but these imperfections are pretty bad. So we're just going to town. And after this, I'll take a Dremel with a flap wheel on it. And I'll even get some of the nicks and crannies here. This is very, very harsh. So go slow, hardly any pressure. And that's what we did. So we didn't take off too much material. Now I've got some 500 grit and some 1000 grit. And this is going to clean it up a lot. In a moment here, I actually dumped some water on the 1000 grit. I didn't have a bowl down here in the basement to dip the water in, so I just dumped it right on the paper. Now, wet sanding with the 1000 grit did wonders on this, actually. I tried to sand initially with the 1000 grit off camera, but it just didn't do anything. I had to start with that 220, do that flap disc and all that. I took the hood back off to kind of do a little bit more work to it. And now we're using our mother's polish. I just smeared on with my finger onto the car and then start polishing it up. You can see it's really coming to life now. And after this, we're going to actually paint it. Now, we'll get to that in a minute. I used orange on this one. The original one that almost killed me that I just threw off there was orange. This new one was antifreeze green, but I didn't have green, so we used orange. Here we are. And in between coats, I actually used a heat gun this time instead of the oven method. It worked okay. We'll get to that. Here are the tires. I actually cut those off instead of pulling them off because they were pretty bad off. And I did not want to risk ripping the bearings off the actual axles. This car's already given me enough grief. I didn't need any more. So that's why we're cutting them off. And it actually works a little better. The axles themselves were bent. If you looked at the original car in the shot, The tires were lopsided, all that. So we're using the ones I got off of eBay. Still have a lot of those, so I'm actually using those. And they didn't fit too bad on this actual Redline. I'm kind of surprised because lately they've been fitting horrible. And just straighten them. Just a little tool that I purchased online just to straighten the axles real quick and easy. I'm using a marker to actually color in the grill black. It was already black, but I wanted to pop a little bit more. And I'm painting the taillights red. They were already red, just redoing it. Here are the interiors. The one on the left there is from the original car, and the one on the right is from the new car. So we're just going to use the one on the right because the windshield's in excellent condition. The blue windshield is actually cracked. We're going to put it all in just a moment here. We'll put the interior in, and the base, and then of course the screws. If you are interested in customizing Hot Wheels or Matchbox, check out the description below. I will have Amazon links to everything you need, from the drill bits to the tap, drills, whatever you need will be in the links below. And you'll see the finished product in just a moment here. I think it turned out great. I do prefer the oven drying method versus the heat gun. I think it just gives it a harder finish. And the shadowing you may be seeing in the paint is not the actual paint. There are light and dark spots down here in the basement. So that's it. If you have any questions or comments, post those below. Subscribe. And as always, thanks for watching.